Canadian Broadcasting Corporation continues to malign the United Conservative Party in the days leading up to the Alberta election, despite the polls showing no sign the New Democrats will retain power. Is the national broadcaster finally losing credibility in the eyes of the electorate? I'm your host, B.A. Jarvis, and you are watching The Golden Door. Alright, we're back. And with the province of Alberta set to decide who their next government will be tomorrow, I thought it was only appropriate to do a follow-up to a video I did a couple of weeks ago, highlighting the differences between the coverage of the United Conservative Party and the New Democratic Party by Canada's national broadcaster. That video, which I will link above, was filmed almost 3 weeks ago, and I would argue showed a clear favoritism for the NDP and a desire to paint the UCP as unfit for rule in the early days of the campaign. Well, despite their best efforts, Alberta voters continue to make their preferences clear as poll after poll shows a greater than 99% chance of the United Conservatives forming a majority government after tomorrow's election. So given the clear will of the people, the CBC has obviously scaled back their clearly partisan coverage and accepted that the accidental NDP government was just that as Alberta returns to blue as it has been for the last 100 years. Right? Wrong! In the days leading up to the election, the CBC has doubled down, publishing article after article designed to portray the UCP as corrupt, bigoted dinosaurs unable to accept the modern economic realities, while making sure to leave long windows for open comments to ensure their loyal audience parrots the approved talking points while downvoting any descent into digital oblivion. Let's take a look. Alright, so among the articles published by the CBC in the last week or so are as follows. Business. Kenny win would bring uncertainty for the energy sector, says report. A Kenny Trudeau showdown raises a number of significant risks for investors, said Eurasia Group. Fraudulent emails used to cast votes in UCP leadership race, CBC finds. List shows members had emails attached to their names and were used to intercept pins needed to vote. So this was after a months-long investigation, and they found something like 31 email addresses that weren't properly registered, so statistically insignificant is one way to put it. Edmonton, proposed UCP changes to banked overtime worry workers. I think it's preposterous. It is truly anti-worker. It is moving backwards. Calgary, RCMP executes search warrant at business owned by Calgary UCP candidate. Peter Singh says that items seized from his business have been returned. Edmonton, Stephen Mandel requests RCMP and Elections Alberta to investigate alleged robocalls. We just want this stuff to stop. Calgary, it's Alberta. This Calgary riding has 4 candidates with UCP ties. One contestant's husband said he'll vote Conservative, not for his wife. Brilliant. Ridiculous. Calgary, what UCP plan to kill Alberta's carbon tax might actually mean at the pump. If Alberta's carbon tax goes, the federal backstop kicks in. And I did a little video about this a while back that you should check out. Edmonton, UCP education plan would change landscape for students, teachers. Wide-ranging plan would affect everything from exam to GSAs. Calgary, failed attempts to solve UCP kamikaze investigation provides fresh insight. Documents filed as part of injunction application are now on public record for the first time. Politics. What federal parties are watching for in the Alberta election? The Canada Votes newsletter is your weekly recap. Okay, so this isn't particularly negative. This is just showing Andrew Scheer. Great flattering picture of them both, though. Opinion, Alberta's rage has rendered Jason Kenney near bulletproof. Not even an RCMP investigation into alleged voter fraud has bitten into the UCP leader's lead. That should tell you something. On the road, in Calgary's Canada's conservative heartland, taking the political temperature in one of Canada's most conservative ridings, and this was ridiculous. So, Raleigh, Alberta, with a population of 8, this is apparently Canada's conservative heartland, essentially telling you, this is where conservatism leads to a dead one-horse town. And finally, Alberta's almost 700,000 votes cast in record-breaking Alberta election advance polls. During 2015, about 235,000 people voted in advance polls. So ask yourself the question, who would be lining up in an advance poll to vote? Somebody who wants to keep the incumbent in, or somebody who is eager to vote the incumbent out? I want to take a bit of a closer look at this article, so here we go. When 5 days of advance polls closed on Saturday, 696,000 Albertans had cast their ballots, a new record for the province. That's almost triple the amount of ballots cast in 2015 election advance polls, when about 235,000 people voted early, according to Elections Alberta. In 2008, about 664,000 people voted in the advance polls. It's definitely a historic turnout, said Pamela Renwick, Director of Operations and Communications with Elections Alberta. Really an amazing turnout, and we're all very impressed here. While there are many factors affecting voter turnout in a given election, Renwick says she believes the convenience of advance polls led to the greater voter turnout. Maybe. For the first time, voters could cast their ballot in advance polls anywhere in the province. A voter could show up at any polling station and have their ballot showing candidates in their riding printed for them. There were also more advanced polls in Alberta this election cycle. Voters could cast their votes at 268 different locations compared to 161 in 2015. We were a lot of work camps, campuses, and lots of places where we thought people would be, like rec centers and malls and airports, Renwick said. Ballots cast in the advance polls by voters at their designated polling place will be counted among the ballots submitted on Election Day, Renwick said. Votes cast at polling stations outside of a voter's designated polling place, like the airport or work camp, will be sorted by Elections Alberta and then counted at their correct electoral divisions. This sorting and counting will start on Wednesday, the day after the election, and is expected to end Saturday, Renwick said. Due to the large amount of ballots already cast, this could take longer than expected, she added. Unlike the advance polls, Albertans will need to cast their vote at their assigned voting station on Election Day. There are around 2.6 million Albertans registered to vote. Election Day is Tuesday, April 16th. So that tells you over 25% of people have already voted in this election, which is just staggering for advance polls. For every address, there's only one location they can be. Voting anywhere no longer applies, Renwick said. We just want to make sure that people headed out to vote on Election Day find the right location. Albertans unsure of whether to vote on Tuesday can check with their voter card they received in the mail or enter their address on Elections Alberta website. So this is interesting for a couple of reasons. One, that so many people have voted in the advance polls, like a huge section of the population. But secondly, the fact that if you voted outside of your regular voting station, your vote may not be counted until Saturday of this week. So we may not know the results of the election until Saturday if the polls are close. Of course, if the UCP sweeps like they're predicted to, it might be over before these people's votes are even counted. The level of obsequiousness found within the comment section of these articles is truly staggering at times, with most of the negative comments coming from individuals with between 5 and 15,000 comments registered on the CBC's website. Now, I have been reading the CBC News website for years, maybe a decade in spite of my better judgment, and I've posted less than 100 comments during that time, mostly when I see something particularly anti-science or coming to the defense of someone who's getting bullied in the comments section. I can't imagine what would motivate someone to spend that much time on one independent comment section that has very little relevance outside of its small Canadian audience, unless there's some kind of financial incentive to do so. Why not start a Twitter or Instagram or YouTube account and try and reach a larger audience if you care that much about making your opinions heard about the news? Again, I want to stress that this isn't a problem unique to the CBC. There are other Canadian news sites that are just as guilty, but due to it being our national broadcaster in receipt of public tax dollars, it needs to be held to a higher standard. Another thing I want to briefly mention is CBC's Vote Compass, which is an online tool that purports to calculate how your political views align with the parties running in the election. There are way too many issues to get into with the tool, and I'll likely be doing a video that dives deep into Vote Compass and its creator Vox Pop Labs in the future. But in the meantime, I encourage you to do your own research on both the tool and the history of the company, because it's pretty shady, and this tool is being rolled out to influence elections worldwide. Alright, as always, thanks a lot for watching the video. Let me know in the comments section what you think the best way would be to hold CBC to account. Is it just a boycott? Do we need to start sending letters to MPs to enforce some kind of journalistic integrity? I'd be interested to know what you guys think. If you want to see more content like this, make sure to hit that like and subscribe button, because we've got a lot more stories on the CBC and Canadian politics in general coming up, especially leading up to the federal election in October of this year. Until next time, you have been watching The Golden Door.